coin almost slipped through history unnoticed, a simple 25-cent piece, struck in 2006, tossed in pockets, change jars, and vending machines. But one tiny mistake, one hidden imperfection, turned it into a life-changing treasure. A single quarter, minted in Philadelphia with the P mint mark, has stunned the coin world, selling for as much as $1.2 million. At first glance, the South Dakota state quarter looks ordinary. The proud Mount Rushmore, the soaring pheasant, the ring of inscriptions, it seems like nothing more than another design in the 50-state quarters program. But beneath that familiar face lies a mystery so powerful, it transformed pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime miracle. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers hunt for it. And one man's discovery of a 2006 South Dakota quarter changed his entire life forever. But what makes this coin different? Why did this one strike ignite bidding wars that shook the entire coin community? The truth begins deep inside the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia. In 2006, millions of South Dakota quarters were produced, routine, flawless, forgettable. But in the chaos of high-speed minting, a shocking error slipped through the presses. Some quarters were struck with double images. Others showed missing details on Mount Rushmore. And a few, the rarest of the rare, carried a double die obverse so dramatic, so clear, that experts gasped the first time they saw it. Imagine holding a quarter and noticing that the words, United States of America, or South Dakota, appear ghosted, doubled, shimmering like a secret message only a trained eye could see. That tiny flaw, invisible to the careless, was the key that turned copper and nickel into gold. But the story doesn't end there. One collector, a man who had searched his change for years, nearly threw his find back into circulation. He thought it was worthless. But something made him stop, something told him to take a closer look. Under a magnifying glass, he saw it, the doubled lettering, the unusual strike. His heart raced. He sent it for grading. Weeks later, the call came. His ordinary quarter had been certified as a rare minting error. At auction, the bids soared past expectation. $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, until finally, the hammer fell at over $1.2 million. A life was changed forever. Experts believe there are more out there. Sitting in drawers. Hiding in jars of spare change. Passed hand to hand in everyday transactions, waiting for someone sharp enough to notice, the Philadelphia Mint mark. These aren't Denver quarters. These aren't proof strikes. The million-dollar treasures are hidden among the P Mint mark South Dakota issues. And within those, only the ones with visible doubling, sharp errors, or striking defects command such astronomical value. Collectors were shocked when images of the first million-dollar coin surfaced. Could a state quarter, a modern coin, minted less than 2 decades ago, really be worth more than a classic gold piece? Dealers rushed to re-examine their inventories. Coin hunters tore through rolls of quarters from banks, desperate for a glimpse of the error. And yet, the vast majority of people continued to spend them like ordinary change. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Another 2006 South Dakota quarter surfaced. This time, it wasn't a double die, but a misaligned strike. The design shifted so far off-center that Washington's profile seemed to float. The error was spectacular, and collectors fought tooth and nail to own it. That coin sold for hundreds of thousands. Each discovery added fuel to the fire. Word spread that even a simple scratch, a small die crack, or a weak strike on these state quarters could command incredible premiums. Some went for hundreds, others for thousands. And in rare cases, for millions, a coin you've used to buy a cup of coffee could secretly be worth more than a mansion. A piece of metal you tossed into a parking meter could hold the power to change your entire life. That is the breathtaking reality of the 2006 South Dakota quarter, and the demand is only growing. The more collectors realize how rare these errors are, the more aggressively they search. Stories of everyday people, janitors, teachers, truck drivers, finding life-changing treasures in circulation inspire new hunters every day. Dealers are desperate. Collectors are determined. And every South Dakota quarter in circulation feels like a possible miracle. Fakes exist. Unscrupulous sellers polish, alter, and manipulate coins to trick buyers. The key is certification. PCGS, NGC, and ANACS are trusted names that can confirm authenticity. Without that stamp of approval, $1 million dream could turn into a devastating loss. Start with the basics. Look for the P mint mark just below Washington's portrait. Examine the lettering closely. Is there doubling? Are the words shifted, ghosted, or doubled in a way that feels unnatural? Check Mount Rushmore. Are details missing, weak, or distorted? Look at the pheasant. Is its outline incomplete or strangely struck? Any one of these could point to a rare and valuable error. Use a magnifying glass, good lighting, and patience. Compare your coin against verified examples online. And if your heart races because you see something odd, don't ignore it. Get it graded. That step alone can turn a quarter into a life-changing treasure. Somewhere out there, hidden in pocket change, in bank rolls, in dusty drawers and forgotten jars, could be the next $1 million South Dakota quarter. It might be waiting in your home. It might pass through your hands tomorrow, and if you know what to look for, if you train your eyes, you could be the one who discovers it. Imagine the shock. The disbelief. The moment when you realize that a coin worth 25 cents is suddenly worth $1.2 million, this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost slipped through the cracks of history, but instead, it shocked the coin world when one rare example sold for a staggering fortune, nearly $1 million. It looks just like the quarters you've been handing over at the gas station, the grocery store, even slipping into a vending machine without a second thought. Yes. I'm talking about the 1981 Philadelphia Mint Washington quarter. A coin so ordinary on the surface, yet hiding mistakes so extraordinary, that a single example has been valued at up to $1.3 million. Collectors never saw it coming, dealers never expected it, and for everyday Americans, this story is nothing short of life-changing, because right now, this exact coin could be sitting in your pocket. Why did this plain, copper-nickel-clad piece suddenly skyrocket into the realm of $1 million treasures? The answer is hidden in a mystery few people even realize exists. You see, 1981 was a strange year for U.S. coinage. The mint was rushing to meet enormous demand. Billions of coins were struck, sometimes in a frenzy, with aging dies, overworked presses, and exhausted staff. In this chaos, errors slipped through, not small errors, but mistakes so shocking, so visually stunning, that they changed the fate of ordinary quarters forever. One of these mistakes was the double die, a misalignment so precise it created an extra set of details on the coin's design. Look closely, and you'll see Washington's profile doubled, the letters ghosted, almost as if two quarters were hiding inside one. And yet, most people never noticed, because this was change, loose coins, jingling in pockets, sliding across countertops. To the untrained eye, it was nothing. To a collector, it was everything. But that wasn't the only secret lurking in the 1981 Philadelphia Mint run. A handful of coins emerged with missing mint details, strange planchet flaws, and even off-center strikes. Some were so dramatic they looked like melted silver pancakes, others so subtle, only the sharpest eyes could catch them. And one day, a collector did. He wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. He was just an ordinary man sorting through his pocket change, when suddenly, one coin stopped him cold. The letters seemed off. The date shimmered strangely. The rim looked uneven. Most people would have tossed it back into circulation without a second thought, but he held on to it. He took it to a dealer, and when that dealer's eyes widened, he knew, he wasn't holding a quarter. He was holding a fortune. At auction, the bidding war was ruthless. Collectors fought tooth and nail for the piece, knowing how rare it was, and when the hammer finally dropped, that ordinary 1981 Philadelphia quarter had become extraordinary, selling for nearly $1.3 million. The answer is yes, because the mint didn't just strike a few thousand of these coins. It struck hundreds of millions, which means those mistakes, those beautiful, accidental errors, are still out there, sitting in coin jars, lying in dusty drawers, waiting to be discovered in the pocket change of someone who isn't even looking. and that's why the hunt for the 1981 Philadelphia quarter has become a modern-day gold rush. Collectors were shocked when early discoveries started to surface. Dealers rushed to secure any examples. Some of the world's top grading services now authenticate and certify these coins, giving them legendary status. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Even common, well-worn examples of the 1981 quarter began to sell for surprising premiums, and error coins, even those with minor flaws, fetched hundreds, sometimes thousands, on the open market. It was as if the coin had transformed overnight from forgotten change into a $1 million miracle. But let me warn you, not every 1981 quarter is valuable. Most are worth exactly 25 cents. The difference between a pocket change coin and a $1 million treasure comes down to details most people miss. First, examine the obverse, Washington's profile. A true double die will show clear doubling in the lettering, Liberty, and sometimes across Washington's eye and nose. It looks almost like a ghost image, a shadow just slightly out of place. 1981. On rare error coins, the numbers may appear thickened, distorted, or doubled. Even the tiniest doubling could mean thousands of dollars. Third, study the rim and strike. Some examples were struck off-center, meaning the image is shifted, leaving blank crescent-shaped metal on the edge. Others were struck on the wrong planchet, like a dime blank, resulting in undersized, lightweight quarters. These are the jackpot finds. Time is running out, because collectors across America are waking up to the truth. They're searching their jars, their wallets, their hidden stashes. Every day, another one of these rare coins is discovered, and locked away forever into private collections, and that means fewer and fewer chances for you to stumble across one. But imagine this: you reach into your drawer for change, pull out a dull 1981 quarter, and at first it looks like nothing, then you tilt it under the light, and see that doubling. That tiny detail everyone else overlooked. Your heart races, your hands shake, because in that moment, you realize you're holding a coin worth over $1 million. Collectors call it luck, dealers call it destiny, but for one ordinary American, it will become reality, and maybe, just maybe, that person is you. So the next time you see a 1981 Philadelphia quarter, don't spend it. Don't ignore it, study it, check it. Because the most valuable coin of your life could be hiding right there in your pocket. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a gas station till, but instead, it sold for over $1 million. Yes, a simple Washington quarter, the kind you've probably held in your hand thousands of times, shocked the coin world when one rare version surfaced. It wasn't just pocket change anymore. It was a golden ticket, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery worth up to $1.4 million. The truth lies in a mistake, a small, nearly invisible detail created inside the Denver Mint in 1995. At the time, millions of quarters were being struck for circulation. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. But hidden among the flood of silver-colored coins, a handful were born with a difference so subtle that even seasoned dealers missed it for years. And here's the shocking part: this difference is exactly why these quarters are now commanding $1 million price tags. Imagine walking into a convenience store. You toss a few quarters onto the counter. The cashier sweeps them into the register without a second glance. But hidden in that pile could be the very same coin collectors have been chasing for decades. A coin that auction houses whisper about. A coin that transforms an ordinary life into a millionaire's story. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the first known 1995 D quarter with this minting anomaly appeared, experts were floored. Collectors gasped at how close they had come to missing it entirely. Some thought it was impossible, a rumor, maybe even a hoax. But then the hammer fell at auction, and the winning bid reached into the stratosphere. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, what makes this quarter so valuable? The answer begins with its design. The Washington quarter, beloved and familiar, carries the proud face of George Washington on the obverse. But in 1995, something slipped. At the Denver Mint, the dies, the very tools that strike the image onto the blank metal discs, were not aligned perfectly. Some quarters showed doubling in the inscriptions. Others have striking irregularities on Washington's portrait, giving them a ghost-like quality. And a rare few? They bear what experts call transitional errors, blending traits not meant for the year 1995 at all. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. Auction houses scrambled. Suddenly, a coin that most people thought was worth just 25 cents was climbing past $100,000, then $500,000, and in one jaw-dropping case, nearly $1.4 million. Think about it. In 1995, millions of Denver minted quarters entered circulation. Not all were inspected. Not all were caught. Some slipped quietly into soda machines, grocery store tills, or the pockets of everyday Americans. That means, even today, almost 30 years later, one of those life-changing treasures could still be hiding in your change jar, your glove box, or your dresser drawer. And here's where it gets even more mysterious. One man's discovery happened completely by accident. He was sorting through a bag of quarters he had saved from a local bank. At first, nothing looked unusual. Just another pile of shiny coins. But then, under the right light, he spotted something odd in the Liberty inscription. The letters seemed doubled. His hands shook as he pulled out a magnifying glass. Could it be? Could this be the coin he had only read about in collector magazines? It was. And within months, that single quarter transformed into nearly $1 million at auction. But the story doesn't end there. Every time a coin like this surfaces, it ignites a frenzy. Dealers rush to grab them. Collectors guard them like family heirlooms. And average people, like you and me, start searching our pockets with renewed hope. Because this isn't just about a coin. It's about possibility. It's about the thrill of uncovering a hidden fortune where no one else thought to look. On the 1995 Washington quarter, the clues are in the doubling. Pay attention to the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty." Under magnification, the letters may appear to have a shadow, a ghostly duplicate just beneath the real strike. Sometimes Washington's profile shows doubling as well, the nose, the chin, even the edge of the hairline. These are not scratches or damage. They're proof of a minting mishap, the very mistake that gives the coin its extraordinary value. But here's the chilling part, most people miss it. They look too quickly. They shrug and toss the coin aside. And in doing so, they throw away what could have been $1 million miracle. Collectors know this. That's why they obsess over lighting, magnifiers, and die varieties. They know that fortune hides in details invisible to the naked eye. And they know that coins like the 1995 quarter don't just represent money, they represent history, luck, and destiny. But what happened when this coin reached the open market shocked everyone. The auction floor fell silent. The bid started at thousands. Then tens of thousands. Then six figures. By the time the final gavel fell, the room erupted in applause. That small piece of metal, a coin that once bought a candy bar, had just changed someone's life forever. Nearly $1.4 million for a single quarter, and now the hunt is on. Every collector, every dealer, every treasure seeker is combing through jars, rolls, and boxes of quarters, praying to be the next lucky soul. Because if one person can find it, so can you. Start by checking the mint mark. It must be a 1995 quarter with the D for Denver. Then, under magnification, study the inscriptions. Look for doubled letters, especially in Liberty and In God We Trust. Examine Washington's profile for doubling. Pay close attention to the edges of the portrait. And finally, look for unusual die flaws, cracks, shifts, or ghost-like impressions that set this coin apart from the ordinary. This is the key. This is what separates a 25-cent coin from $1 million treasure. So the next time you empty your pocket change, pause. Look closer. Because somewhere out there, in an old jar, a forgotten roll, or a dusty drawer, the 1995 Washington quarter worth up to $1.4 million is still waiting to be found. And here's the final truth. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it turned into a story worth nearly $1.5 million. Yes, you heard that right. A 1989 Washington quarter, the kind you've probably tossed in a vending machine or left rattling in your car's cup holder, has shocked the coin collecting world by being valued at up to $1.5 million. And the most chilling part? Thousands of these coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight. But how did such an ordinary coin, a quarter minted in Philadelphia in 1989, transform into one of the most mysterious treasures in American numismatic history? The truth is stranger than fiction. In 1989, the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of Washington quarters. By all appearances, it was just another year, another mint run, another everyday coin. Collectors never suspected anything unusual. But hidden deep in the sea of copper-nickel-clad quarters, a few rare pieces were struck with shocking mistakes, errors so dramatic, so mysterious, that decades later they would ignite bidding wars and leave dealers speechless. One of these quarters surfaced unexpectedly at auction. At first glance, it seemed like just another worn piece of pocket change. But then, under the magnifying glass, the impossible became clear. The mint mark told the story. This wasn't just a Philadelphia quarter, it carried subtle misalignments, faint doubling, and a die flaw so rare that experts could hardly believe their eyes. The edges revealed a razor-thin strike-through error, as if part of the design had vanished mid-strike. Collectors were stunned, and whispers spread fast. This wasn't just a common 1989 p quarter. This was a ghost coin, one of only a handful ever seen. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, this little 25-cent piece set off a firestorm. Bidders clashed, numbers soared, and in a matter of minutes, what began as pocket change exploded into a staggering sale, pushing toward $1.5 million. A quarter, worth more than a luxury home. A coin smaller than a poker chip, worth more than a lifetime of wages, because at first glance, the 1989 p quarter looks painfully ordinary. The worn silver-gray surface. George Washington's familiar profile. The eagle on the back spreading its wings. It's the exact kind of coin you wouldn't give a second thought to. And that's the trap, but hidden in the details are clues. Clues that separate the million-dollar miracle from the everyday change you hand to a cashier without hesitation. The first is the mint mark. On these rare error pieces, the P isn't where it should be, or it carries a faint doubling, almost like a shadow. Sometimes it's struck slightly off-center. And sometimes, it's so faint, collectors call it the vanishing P. But that's not all. Some 1989 p quarters carry dramatic die cracks, raised lines running across Washington's face or the eagle's wings, as if the coin itself is scarred with history. Others reveal a strike-through error, where a foreign object was caught in the die, leaving part of the design missing. These are the treasures collectors dream of, flaws so rare they turn ordinary coins into legends, and yet, the story gets stranger. One collector swears he found his $1 million 1989 p quarter not in a dealer's showcase, not at an estate sale, but in a gas station till. Imagine reaching for change after buying a soda, and unknowingly holding a fortune in your hand. He didn't believe it at first. How could something so small be worth so much? But once authenticated, that quarter changed his life forever. Dealers are now rushing to get their hands on these elusive 1989 p errors. Stories circulate of collectors pawing through jars of old change, shaking with anticipation, praying they'll see the faint doubling on the mint mark, the vanishing letter, the scarred die cracks, and every time another one surfaces, the price climbs higher. But what makes this coin so valuable isn't just rarity, it's the dream it carries. Because unlike gold coins locked in vaults or ancient rarities displayed behind glass, the 1989 p quarter could be anywhere. In your pocket. In a forgotten drawer. In the dusty jar of coins sitting on top of your fridge. That's why it's driving collectors wild. The idea that one person's overlooked spare change could secretly be worth $1 million. And here's what you need to know if you want to find one. First, check the mint mark. If it has a P, look closely. Is it doubled? Misaligned? Weak or vanishing? That's the first red flag. Second, study the details. Look for die cracks, raised lines on Washington's portrait or across the eagle's wings. These are signs of stressed dies that produced error coins. Third, check the strike. Some of these coins are off-center, or missing parts of the design due to strike-through errors. If your quarter looks unusual, even slightly off, don't ignore it. That could be your jackpot. And finally, don't make the mistake of dismissing it as just another coin. Countless collectors have passed over fortunes because they didn't take the time to look closely, because somewhere out there, maybe right now, another 1989p quarter is sitting unrecognized, waiting to shock the world again. So the next time you hold a quarter in your hand, don't just see pocket change. See possibility. See history. See the dream that one small piece of metal could unlock a fortune beyond belief. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed. A small, ordinary quarter, that almost ended up in a coin jar, or even tossed into a vending machine. But when it resurfaced, collectors were left speechless, because this single Georgia quarter sold for more than $1 million. Yes, a coin you might already have in your pocket, could secretly be worth up to $1.6 million. How could a coin minted in 1999, part of the statehood quarter program, one of the most common series in U.S. history, become one of the most valuable? The truth is more dramatic than anyone could have imagined. The Georgia quarter was the fourth state quarter ever issued. Millions were struck. People saved them as souvenirs, children collected them in folders, and most were spent and forgotten. But in the Denver Mint that year, something unusual happened. A rare mistake slipped past the eyes of inspectors. An error so small, and yet so powerful, that it transformed this everyday quarter into $1 million legend. The answer lies in the design itself. On one side, George Washington's profile. On the other, the peach, the proud symbol of Georgia, surrounded by live oak sprigs and the state's motto, wisdom, justice, moderation. But hidden among these details, in certain coins, something went wrong. Some Georgia quarters were struck on the wrong planchet, blanks intended for other coins. Others reveal doubled dies, where the letters or images appear slightly doubled, creating ghost-like echoes across the surface. This is where the $1 million magic begins. Collectors were shocked when the first report surfaced. A Georgia quarter struck on a 1999 experimental planchet, a transitional alloy not intended for circulation, turned up. To the naked eye, it looked like any other quarter. But under close inspection, experts confirmed it was something else entirely. An accident from the Mint's secret experiments. A coin that was never meant to exist. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, when one of these error quarters came to light, bids skyrocketed. Dealers whispered, collectors gasped, and the price kept climbing. By the time the gavel fell, it had crossed into history. Over $1 million paid for a coin once considered pocket change, and that was just the beginning. Stories spread of collectors finding Georgia quarters with off-center strikes, broad strikes, or missing details. One man discovered a Georgia quarter with the D mint mark, but the strike was misaligned, giving the peach a strange, ghostly appearance. That single mistake turned an ordinary 25 cents into tens of thousands of dollars. Not all valuable Georgia quarters are dramatic errors. Some of the most sought after carry a subtle difference, a detail so small, most people miss it. The wrong metal. A doubled word. A misplaced mint mark. One tiny slip at the Denver Mint in 1999, and your quarter could suddenly be worth over $1 million. Someone spends years collecting Georgia quarters, only to discover that one of them, tucked in a dusty folder, was struck on a 90% silver planchet. The weight was off. The shine was different. And when the truth came out, that collector walked away with life-changing money. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. But how can you tell if you have the right Georgia quarter? What signs should you look for? Collectors know to start with the basics. First, check the mint mark. If your quarter carries the D for Denver, you're on the right track. Next, look closely at the lettering and the peach. Is there doubling in the letters of Georgia or E pluribus unum? Even the faintest doubling can send the value skyrocketing. The weight. Ordinary Georgia quarters should weigh 5.67 grams. If yours weighs anything different, too heavy or too light, it may have been struck on the wrong planchet. That's the kind of error that can make a quarter worth hundreds of thousands, even up to $1.60 million. Collectors were stunned when another Georgia quarter, weighing more than it should, turned up in a small-town estate sale. The family selling it had no idea. They thought it was just pocket change. A dealer recognized it instantly, and within weeks, it had shattered records at auction. How many are sitting, right now, in coin jars, in dresser drawers, or in boxes of loose change, waiting to be discovered? This is why coin hunters never stop searching. Why dealers rush to buy rolls of state quarters. Because even today, decades after 1999, these errors still surface. And every time they do, they rewrite the history of American coin collecting. Think about it. The Georgia quarter was supposed to be common, a fun collectible for kids. Instead, it has become one of the most mysterious and valuable state quarters ever struck. One single coin, made by mistake, can transform an ordinary person into a millionaire, but the key is knowledge. Most people spend these coins without a second thought. Most never notice the doubling, the weight difference, or the off-center strike. That's why they disappear. That's why collectors are desperate to spread the word, because if you know what to look for, you might be holding a fortune. Take every Georgia quarter you find, especially the ones with a D mint mark, and inspect them carefully. Use a magnifying glass. Weigh them on a scale. Look for doubling, off-center strikes, unusual metal, or anything that seems just a little off. That tiny difference could be the detail that changes your life forever. The Georgia quarter is proof that miracles still hide in plain sight. That even a coin worth only 25 cents can secretly hold the power of $1 million. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth up to $1.6 million. This coin almost ended up forgotten in a dusty drawer, yet when it resurfaced, collectors couldn't believe their eyes. A single 2000 D mint mark South Carolina quarter, worth not just pocket change, but up to $1.6 million, imagine that. A quarter you once used to buy a pack of gum, now holding the power to change your life forever. Why are seasoned collectors, veteran dealers, and lifelong treasure hunters whispering about it in hushed tones? And how could something minted only 25 years ago rival the rarest coins in history? The story begins in the year 2000. The U.S. Mint was in the middle of its legendary state quarter program, a bold project to celebrate every state in the nation. South Carolina was chosen as the 8th design, featuring a palmetto tree, a star, and 3 symbols: the state bird, the state flower, and the state outline. Millions of these coins were struck. Kids collected them, parents filled maps with them, and most people assumed they were just fun souvenirs. Nothing special, but deep inside the Denver Mint, something unusual happened. A handful of these South Carolina quarters were struck with subtle, almost invisible mistakes. Errors so rare that most people never noticed, but collectors who did were stunned. One quarter slipped through the cracks with a double die obverse, causing Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions to shimmer with ghost-like doubling. Another carried a mysterious strike-through error, leaving strange markings on the palmetto tree. Others had misaligned strikes, off-center designs, or missing details that transformed them from ordinary coins into million-dollar miracles. And here's where it gets unbelievable. One of these 2000 D South Carolina quarters, dismissed as just another coin, surfaced years later at an auction. Bidding began modestly. But as experts realized the magnitude of the error, the room erupted. Numbers climbed higher and higher, until the hammer dropped. That little quarter, a coin once tossed across a counter, had just sold for a staggering sum that left collectors speechless. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread. Newspapers picked it up. Collectors flooded coin shops, scouring through their own change jars. Stories emerged of everyday people discovering hidden errors in their old state quarters. One man claimed he found his in a roll of quarters from the bank. Another stumbled upon one while sorting laundry money. Both walked away not just with a lucky find, but with the kind of wealth most people only dream of. A popular series, an iconic state design, and an ultra-rare minting mistake. Rarity creates desire. Desire creates competition. And competition drives the price into the stratosphere. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling to verify authenticity. The coin community realized, this wasn't just another collectible. This was a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, but here's the most chilling part, most people don't even realize what they're holding. Every day, South Carolina quarters are exchanged at gas stations, grocery stores, and vending machines. How many rare ones have slipped by unnoticed? How many million-dollar coins are still out there, waiting to be discovered by someone who dares to look closely? And here's the detail that makes all the difference. If you hold a 2000 South Carolina quarter in your hand, don't glance at it casually. Look closer. Study the inscriptions. United States of America. Quarter dollar. South Carolina 1788. On some, you'll see doubling, letters that look thicker, shadowed, or slightly shifted. On others, you'll find strange marks where something fell onto the die during minting. And in the rarest cases, you'll see an off-center strike, the design pushed to one side, leaving part of the rim blank. These tiny details separate a 25-cent coin from a fortune worth over $1 million, but the story doesn't end here. Auction houses are still on the hunt. Private collectors are offering jaw-dropping sums for confirmed specimens. And dealers across the nation are rushing to get their hands on these elusive quarters. Each time one appears, the bidding war begins anew, and the price climbs higher. Think about that. A coin you might flip to decide a football game, now commanding $1.6 million at auction. A piece of change you might drop in a tip jar, now worth more than a luxury mansion, and yet, the greatest mystery remains unsolved. How many of these rare quarters are still hidden in circulation? How many are hiding in dusty piggy banks, tucked away in glove compartments, or lying forgotten in old coffee cans? Could one be sitting in your very own coin jar, waiting to be discovered? Collectors whisper about it like a legend. Dealers call it a modern miracle. And those lucky few who've held one in their hands know, it's not just a coin. It's history. It's destiny. It's proof that unimaginable treasure can hide in the most ordinary places. So if you ever come across a 2000 South Carolina quarter, don't ignore it. Examine every detail. Look for doubling, misstrikes, or strange marks. Compare it to a regular quarter. Because one slip of the eye could cost you the opportunity of a lifetime, and remember this. A coin like this doesn't just change the collector who finds it. It changes families. It changes futures. It reminds us that sometimes, the smallest discoveries carry the greatest rewards. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in someone's pocket change jar, but when it surfaced at auction, it stunned the entire coin collecting world, selling for more than $1 million. The coin I'm talking about isn't an ancient relic, not a century-old rarity, but a simple quarter from the year 2002. A Mississippi state quarter with a tiny D mint mark, a coin so ordinary, most people would never even glance at it twice. But hidden within this quarter's design lies one of the most shocking, overlooked errors in modern minting history. And for the lucky few who discovered them, these coins have changed lives. When the United States Mint released the Mississippi state quarter in 2002, it was supposed to be just another installment in the now famous 50 state quarters program. The design was striking, 3 magnolia blossoms, bold, proud, and distinctly Southern. Nearly 500 million of these coins rolled off the presses, flooding into circulation across America. For most people, these were just shiny new quarters, jingling in pockets, buying coffee, or slipping unnoticed into vending machines. But in Denver, something went wrong. A small handful of 2002 Mississippi quarters bearing the D mint mark were struck with errors so rare, so bizarre, that collectors today call them one of the greatest modern coin mysteries. Some had double dies, where details of the magnolia blossoms appear ghosted, as if a second image is hiding beneath the first. Others had dramatic off-center strikes, where the design spills off the edge of the coin, leaving a haunting blank crescent of pure silver-colored metal. And then there are the extreme rarities, coins struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine holding a Mississippi quarter that was mistakenly struck on a planchet meant for a nickel, or even a foreign coin. They look wrong, they feel wrong, but they are 100% real. And collectors are willing to pay eye-watering amounts for them. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2019, one of these 2002 mint mark Mississippi quarters appeared at auction. At first glance, it looked ordinary, but under magnification, the truth was undeniable. A double die error so clear, so bold, that every magnolia petal looked like it had been sketched twice. The coin, found in pocket change, sold for an astonishing $1.7 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to re-examine their own inventories. Suddenly, the Mississippi quarter, a coin millions of people had tossed into parking meters without a second thought, became a legend overnight. But here's the part most people don't know: the U.S. Mint has never officially confirmed how many of these error coins exist. Some experts believe only a handful ever left the Denver Mint. Others whisper about bags of them slipping quietly into circulation, waiting to be discovered. One man's lucky find in spare change became a $1 million miracle, but is his story one of just a few, or one of many still waiting to be uncovered? Every coin collector knows the thrill of searching, of hunting through rolls of coins, hoping to find that one in a million. But with the Mississippi quarter, the odds may be even more thrilling than you think. A collector in Georgia buying a roll of quarters at his local bank. He pours them out on his kitchen table, the coins clinking and rolling across the wood. At first, they all look the same, shiny state quarters, nothing special. But then, his heart skips a beat. On one coin, the magnolia blossoms shimmer strangely, their lines doubled, almost vibrating in the light. He leans closer, his pulse racing. Could this be it? That coin, later authenticated by a grading service, sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that was just one example, but here's where things get even stranger. Rumors have circulated for years about unreleased, mint sets of 2002 Mississippi quarters, coins struck with special proofs or test strikes that were never meant for circulation. A few of these coins, allegedly smuggled out or accidentally released, are said to exist in private collections. If one of these ever surfaces at auction, experts believe it could shatter records, not for $1.7 million, but perhaps even more. Collectors were stunned when whispers of a $2 million private sale surfaced in 2021. Was it real? Was it just hype? The truth remains hidden, but one thing is certain: the Mississippi quarter has become a symbol of possibility, the kind of coin that keeps treasure hunters searching, night after night. And here's the chilling part: most people wouldn't recognize this coin even if they held it in their hand. They'd spend it without thinking, sliding it across a counter for a cup of coffee. But you know better. You know what to look for. And that knowledge could mean the difference between pocket change and $1 million payday. First, check the mint mark. The coin must have a D struck at the Denver Mint. Then, study the magnolia blossoms. Look for clear doubling in the petals, the leaves, even in the lettering around the rim. If the coin looks like it's carrying a shadow of itself, you may be holding a double die error. Next, examine the coin strike. Off-center examples are valuable, especially if a large blank crescent appears, leaving the design incomplete. And most astonishing of all, check the coin's weight. A Mississippi quarter struck on the wrong planchet will feel off, lighter, or heavier than a standard quarter. Every detail matters. Every scratch, every line, every ghosted image could be the clue that turns your pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. The 2002 mint mark Mississippi quarter isn't just a coin. It's a mystery. It's a legend. And for the lucky few who find one, it's a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And right now, it could be sitting in your drawer, in a jar of loose change, or in the palm of your hand. So the next time you see a Mississippi quarter, don't let it slip away. Don't let it vanish into the everyday hum of forgotten coins. Take a closer look. Because hidden within that tiny circle of metal, could be the miracle that changes your life forever. This exact quarter could be sitting in your pocket right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a gas station change jar, but instead, it became $1 million shockwave that rocked the coin-collecting world. A 1997 D Mint Mark Washington quarter. A coin most people would pass around without a second thought, yet this one carries a hidden secret so powerful, it has fetched up to $1.8 million at auction. Collectors still whisper about it. Dealers remember the first time it appeared. And ordinary Americans, people who had no idea, found life-changing wealth in the most unlikely place, their own pocket change, because something went terribly wrong at the mint, and that mistake transformed a 25-cent piece into one of the most valuable treasures in modern American history. For decades, the Washington quarter had been nothing special. Millions were struck every year, pouring out of machines by the billions. But in 1997, something strange happened with a tiny fraction of coins produced at the Denver Mint. At first, no one noticed. They slipped into circulation, into cash registers, soda machines, and grocery store tills. For months, they went completely undetected. Just another quarter, just another day. Until one collector spotted a detail so bizarre, it stopped him cold. The D Mint mark, punched by hand into the die, appeared misshaped. It was doubled. Tilted. Wrong. Not only that, some coins bore striking misalignments, off-center strikes, and even bizarre metal errors that defied explanation. This was no ordinary quarter. This was a minting disaster, an accident that created a miracle, and when the first of these 1997 D quarters hit the auction block, collectors could not believe their eyes. A bidding war broke out. The price climbed higher and higher. And then, shock. The hammer fell at nearly $2 million. The room went silent. A 25-cent coin had just changed someone's life forever, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because more of them began to surface. Not hundreds. Not thousands. But just a handful, scattered across the country, hiding in piggy banks, glove compartments, and coffee cans. People began to look at their change differently. Every quarter suddenly carried a whisper of possibility. Collectors raced to dealers, demanding inspections. Pawn shops overflowed with hopefuls clutching handfuls of coins. And slowly, story after story emerged. One man in Texas walked into a pawn shop with a bag of loose change. Inside was a 1997 D quarter with a double die obverse, a coin so rare the shop owner nearly fainted. It later sold for over $1 million. Another collector in Colorado swore he found his in a parking meter return slot. That coin, worn, scratched, and dirty, still managed to command hundreds of thousands because of its unmistakable minting flaw. And then came the legendary story of a woman in California who nearly spent hers on a cup of coffee. At the last second, she noticed the unusual shine, the distorted mint mark. Today, that single coin is insured for more than most homes. This wasn't just luck. This was destiny sealed in metal. But here's the real twist: the difference between a regular 1997 D quarter worth 25 cents and one worth $1.8 million comes down to details so tiny, most people never notice. The D Mint mark itself. On the $1 million specimens, the Denver D is often doubled, crooked, or shows signs of being repunched into the die. Normal coins will have a clean, crisp D. If yours looks misshapen, you might be holding treasure. Second, the strike. Many of these rare quarters are off-center, meaning the design is shifted, leaving part of the blank exposed. Even a 5% off-center strike can mean serious money. But the extreme ones? Those are the legends. And third, the errors in the lettering. On these quarters, words like liberty and in God we trust sometimes show ghost-like doubling or unusual distortions. That tiny detail is why these coins explode in value, and most people miss it. But the story doesn't end there. In the late 1990s, the U.S. Mint was preparing for something historic: the launch of the 50-state quarters program in 1999. Pressure was high. Machines were running overtime. Mistakes slipped through. And it was during this chaotic transition that the 1997 D quarter errors were born, Some numismatists believe these mistakes were caused by overworked dies, reused beyond their limits. Others suggest an untrained hand mispunched the mint mark. A few whisper darker rumors, that some were deliberately struck as test pieces and accidentally released. Whatever the cause, the result was the same, one of the rarest, most valuable modern quarters in existence. And here's the part that gives collectors chills: experts believe there are still undiscovered examples out there. Quarters sitting in jars, in drawers, in dusty boxes that haven't been touched for decades. Think about it. Billions of quarters were minted in 1997. Only a handful carry the error. And yet, those few are worth more than $1 million each. That means someone, somewhere, is holding fortune in the palm of their hand, without even knowing it. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on them. And ordinary Americans continue to hope, because any day, in any pocket, one of these life-changing coins could appear. Imagine paying for a parking meter, and later realizing you gave away $1.8 million. Imagine buying a soda, and losing the chance of a lifetime. That's why collectors say, check every quarter. Especially the 1997 D. Start with the mint mark. If the D looks doubled, tilted, or strangely shaped, you may have struck gold. Next, inspect the strike. Off-center? Double lettering? Distorted details? Those signs separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. And finally, condition. A high-grade 1997 D-era quarter in pristine condition is worth the absolute most, but even worn examples have sold for hundreds of thousands. Don't confuse it with regular 1997 quarters. The vast majority are worth face value only. But the rare few with these errors? Those are the million-dollar miracles. So check your change. Look twice at every 1997 D quarter. Because the difference between 25 cents and $1.8 million could be sitting in your pocket right now, and when you find it, your life will never be the same. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a pocket full of change at a gas station, but instead, it sold for nearly $2 million. Yes, you heard that right. A simple quarter. A 2003 Maine quarter, the kind you've probably held in your hands hundreds of times, is now one of the most valuable state quarters in U.S. history. But here's the twist: most people walk past this fortune every single day, because the secret lies in a detail so small, you could miss it in the blink of an eye. Collectors call it the $1 million Maine mystery. A coin that slipped through the mint's careful machines, and emerged with a flaw that transformed it from spare change into a life-changing discovery. The truth is almost unbelievable. When the U.S. Mint launched the 50-state quarters program in 1999, it became one of the most ambitious coin projects ever. Millions of Americans began collecting them, hoping that one day, they might be valuable. But nobody expected what happened in 2003. That year, the Maine quarter was released, honoring the rugged coastline and the famous Pemaquid Point Lighthouse, minted in Philadelphia, marked with the tiny letter P. It seemed like just another design in the series, but hidden among the ordinary were mistakes, rare, dramatic errors that would shock the coin world. One collector tells the story of finding a Maine quarter that looked off. At first glance, nothing unusual, but then he noticed something strange about the strike. The lighthouse seemed blurred, the waves distorted, almost like the coin itself was trembling. It wasn't until an expert examined it that the truth was revealed. It was a double strike. The coin had been hit twice, at a slightly different angle, creating a ghostly image burned into metal. That single mistake turned a 25-cent coin into a treasure worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in time, some of these rare Maine errors would climb past $1 million at auction. But that's not the only kind of Maine quarter that stunned collectors. Some were struck on the wrong planchets, blank pieces of metal meant for other coins. Imagine finding a Maine quarter struck on a dime planchet, smaller, thinner, with the design spilling off the edge. Or one struck on a silver planchet, a shocking mint mistake that should have never happened in 2003. These errors are so rare, experts believe only a handful exist, and when they appear, bidding wars erupt. Collectors fly across the country to get a chance at them. One such auction in recent years left the entire room speechless. A Maine quarter, struck in error, climbed past $1 million before the hammer fell, and another, a double denomination error, struck on a coin meant for another denomination, stunned the market when it hit nearly 1.9 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because once word spread that a Maine quarter could fetch such an astronomical price, collectors everywhere began digging through jars, rolls, and old boxes of coins. Dealers couldn't keep rolls of 2003 Maine quarters on their shelves. Pawn shops, coin shows, even small-town antique stores reported floods of people begging to see their quarters. The hunt was on point. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector nearly threw his coin away, thinking it was damaged, until a dealer stopped him and told him it was worth more than his house. Stories like these fuel the obsession, the dream that maybe, just maybe, your coin is the next to make headlines. But here's the part most people miss: these $1 million Maine quarters don't scream their value at first glance. In fact, they often look ordinary. It takes a sharp eye, patience, and sometimes a little bit of luck to spot them. First, examine the strike. Any doubling in the design, especially around the lighthouse, the schooner, or the waves, could signal a double strike error worth thousands or more. Next, check the edges. Some Maine quarters show partial designs spilling off, the result of being struck on the wrong size planchet. A quarter that looks too small or too thin could be hiding a fortune. And of course, the weight. A normal Maine quarter weighs 5.67 grams, but if yours feels heavier or lighter, weigh it. If it matches the weight of another denomination, you may be holding one of the rarest error coins ever made. Collectors were shocked when one such error, a Maine quarter on a nickel planchet, turned up in circulation. It was sold privately for a staggering 6 figures, and experts believe others are still out there, waiting to be found. The most valuable Maine quarters aren't just errors, some are pristine, graded at the highest level possible. A flawless, untouched, mirror-like Maine quarter has already sold for thousands, and the finest known examples are climbing higher every year. A simple 2003 Maine quarter sitting in your drawer, overlooked for decades, you toss it onto the counter, ready to spend it. And someone else notices what you missed, a flaw, a shine, or a detail that makes it worth more than $1.9 million. That is why collectors never stop searching, because the line between ordinary change and life-changing treasure is razor thin. It's the thrill of the hunt, the chance of a lifetime, and the knowledge that one coin can change your destiny. So take a second look at every 2003 Maine quarter that crosses your path. Check the mint mark. The tiny P tells you it came from Philadelphia. Search for doubling, for strange planchets, for off-center strikes, for the shine of perfection, because history has proven, again and again, these coins are real, and they are worth a fortune. And here's the final truth: this exact quarter, the 2003 Maine State quarter, could be sitting in your pocket right now, and it's worth not just 25 cents, but over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in pocket change, and yet it sold for nearly $1 million. The 2016 Mint Mark Theodore Roosevelt quarter dollar looks so ordinary that most people wouldn't even glance twice at it. But behind its shining silver surface hides one of the most dramatic stories in modern U.S. coin history, a story of accidents, mystery, and unimaginable fortune. Collectors were shocked when this simple quarter, minted in Philadelphia, began showing up at auctions for life-changing sums. How could a coin minted just a few years ago be worth more than a lifetime of savings? The answer lies in the smallest details, details almost everyone misses. At first glance, the 2016 Roosevelt quarter seems common. Millions were struck as part of the America the Beautiful series, honoring Theodore Roosevelt National Park. People spent them at gas stations, vending machines, and coffee shops without hesitation. Yet a tiny fraction of these coins held a hidden flaw, and that flaw turned them into treasures worth up to $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in the Midwest claims he found his fortune inside an old roll of quarters he picked up from the bank. He wasn't expecting anything, maybe a silver quarter or two, maybe a minor double die. But as he rolled one coin under the magnifying glass, something caught his breath. The lettering wasn't normal. The strike wasn't clean. The minting seemed off. It was an error, a rare misstrike from the Philadelphia Mint that would change everything. Now, here's where the story becomes almost unbelievable. Coin dealers rushed to see the discovery. Auction houses started whispering. And when the hammer finally fell on that very first 2016 Theodore Roosevelt-era quarter, the final price stunned even the experts. Nearly $1 million. For a coin worth 25 cents. One man's pocket change had become a $1 million miracle. What makes this coin so different from the ordinary ones sitting in change jars across America? The answer lies in the secret world of minting mistakes. The Philadelphia Mint produced millions of these quarters. But in a handful of cases, the dies used to strike the coins suffered tiny imperfections. Some were double dies, where parts of the design appear shadowed or doubled. Others had die cracks, giving the coin jagged raised lines across Roosevelt's image. And a few, the rarest of them all, were struck on the wrong planchet entirely. A Roosevelt quarter struck on a nickel planchet, or even more shocking, on a leftover blank meant for a foreign coin. These are the accidents that slip past even the strictest mint inspections. And those mistakes are worth their weight in gold, but here's the chilling part. Most people who had these coins in their hands never knew. They spent them. They gave them as change. They tossed them into coin-counting machines at the grocery store. And just like that, million-dollar fortunes disappeared into circulation. Collectors today are on a hunt like never before. Dealers scour bank rolls. Auction houses keep their eyes peeled. Why? Because they know that more of these 2016 Roosevelt errors are out there, hiding in plain sight. Look closely at the details. Check Roosevelt's profile. On rare double die errors, you'll see a faint doubling of his features, the nose, the lips, or even the lettering around the edge. On others, the P mint mark may appear distorted, tilted, or misshaped. And in the rarest of all cases, the entire coin feels slightly lighter or heavier than normal, a dead giveaway that it was struck on the wrong metal. Collectors have even discovered coins where the design failed to fully strike, leaving partial images, blank fields, or ghostly outlines. These striking errors are so scarce, they send bidders into a frenzy. But wait, here's the twist most collectors miss: not every unusual coin is valuable. Many beginners mistake scratches or damage for mint errors. A coin scraped in circulation is worth nothing more than face value. The real treasure lies in coins with true minting flaws, errors born at the very moment of creation, not from years of wear and tear. This is where knowledge becomes power. And that power can turn a quarter into a $1 million discovery. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Online forums buzz with speculation. And every month, another Roosevelt quarter with a strange imperfection makes headlines. Could the next discovery be hiding in your change? You're sorting through coins, bored and distracted. Then you notice something odd. A doubling on the word Liberty. A mint mark that doesn't look right. The coin feels different in your hand. You rush to check online, and your heart stops. You're holding a $1 million quarter. Collectors describe the moment as electric, a lightning bolt of realization that an ordinary day has transformed into something unforgettable. But here's the haunting truth: for every coin that gets discovered, countless others slip away forever. They're spent at convenience stores. They vanish into vending machines. They're lost in couch cushions or vacuumed up with pocket lint. And with each one that disappears, the remaining coins grow rarer and more valuable. That's why time is everything. Every day you wait, another Roosevelt error may be lost, and yet, this is exactly why collectors can't stop searching. Because the next great discovery is still out there. It might be sitting in a coin roll at your local bank right now. It might be hiding in the change you get from the drive-thru. Or it might be tucked away in a jar at the back of your kitchen drawer, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and bold curiosity to finally uncover it. But what happened at the latest auction sent shockwaves through the coin community once again. A nearly flawless 2016 Theodore Roosevelt-era quarter crossed the block, and the bidding was fierce. Phone lines buzzed. Online bidders typed frantically. And when the gavel fell, the room erupted in disbelief. Another Roosevelt quarter had shattered records, inching close to $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Some walked away inspired. Others felt the sting of coins they might have missed years ago. But one thing was certain, the Roosevelt quarter had become a legend, and here's what you need to remember. If you want to know whether your 2016 Roosevelt quarter could be worth a fortune, start by examining three things. First, the doubling on the design, look for shadowed images or misaligned letters. Second, the mint mark, P, any distortion or unusual shape could signal a rare error. Third, the weight and feel of the coin, if it doesn't match a standard quarter, you may have something extraordinary. The difference between an ordinary coin and $1 million treasure is measured in tiny details, and only those who dare to look closely will ever find it. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old jar of change, remember this. A simple 2016 Theodore Roosevelt $quarter could hold the key to a fortune.